Good afternoon. I'd like to welcome everyone to the November 9th meeting of the Boston Art Commission. My name is Karen Goodfellow, and I'm the Director of Public Art in the Mayor's Office of Arts and Culture. And in that capacity, I'm also the Director of the Boston Art Commission. In accordance with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Executive Order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, we are conducting this meeting virtually. To ensure public access to the deliberations of the Boston Art Commission, the public can join this meeting through telephone and video conferencing. For those of you with us today, this meeting is being recorded and closed captioning is available. You can access it at the bottom of the screen. If you have trouble locating the button, please chat us for assistance. I also ask that everyone update your name and pronouns and to please keep yourself muted. Artworks proposed for the City of Boston property are reviewed at public meetings of the Boston Art Commission, BAC. The BAC is the commissioning body for the City of Boston. Working together with the Public Art Team and the Mayor's Office of Arts and Culture, the Boston Art Commission is an independent board composed of 2 ex officio and 7 appointed volunteer art and design professionals that holds public meetings to review, discuss, and vote on matters concerning the city's art collection. The BAC has exclusive authority to approve and commission artworks intended to be added to the city's collection or be placed on city property. The Mayor's Office of Arts and Culture and the Boston Art Commission believe that public art is any artwork installed in publicly accessible spaces where they can be experienced by everyone. We engage in discussions about public art in Boston in order to foster the creation and collection of artworks that reflects the people, ideas, histories, and futures of Boston, which is on the traditional homeland of the Massachusetts people. We acknowledge the continuing presence of the Massachusetts as well as the Wampanoag and Nipmuc peoples. We also recognize the Indigenous peoples represented in this city's residents, in addition to those in the diaspora. Our meetings are generally held the second Tuesday of each month to review current public art projects cited on or proposed for City of Boston property, and we hope you'll continue to join us. The Mayor's Office of Arts and Culture has a dedicated public art team that manages all daily operations and duties related to public art projects cited on or proposed for City of Boston property. And this team facilitates the Boston Art Commission's monthly public meetings and manages all phases of Boston's public art projects in collaboration with the Boston Art Commission, community members, and colleagues at the City of Boston. I'm joined today by the public art team, Sarah Rodrigo, Senior Public Art Project Manager, and Trisha Gilrain, Collections Manager, who will be helping to facilitate this meeting. I am also joined by Liza Quinones, Public Art Mural Consultant from the Street Theory Design firm. Sarah will add our contact information to the chat, and you can send general questions to bac@boston.gov.
Okay, thank you, Karen. Welcome, everyone. I'm calling this public hearing to order at 4:07 p.m. Today, the Boston Art Commission will be holding its monthly public meeting. I will now take roll call of commissioners to confirm a quorum. After I state your name, commissioners, please say here. I'll begin with Vice Chair Ekwa Holmes.
Here.
Okay,
Here.
Thank you. Camilo Alvarez.
Here.
John Andres.
Here.
Michael Canizzo.
Here.
Cara Elliott Ortega, I believe she's not here.
I think she'll be joining later.
Okay. Robert Freeman.
Here.
Brian Hone.
Here.
And Kim Pinder.
Here.
Great. So we have a quorum. We will now review meeting minutes from the previous October 12th meeting of the commission. Are there any comments or modifications any commissioner would like to make? I actually do have one myself, which is that I believe there's a reference to me requesting volunteers from the commission for a subcommittee of the BAC, a public subcommittee. And I wonder if we should mention who volunteered. That was for the
That was Brian and John volunteered.
Yeah. So could we add that into the notes perhaps? Any other comments from commissioners?
We want to call that a subcommittee or an advisory group.
That one, we are calling a subcommittee. So we've, after going back and forth about what the technical language is for each, this one is a publicly noticed. We already have the public notice up there. It'll be a public meeting. And so I believe that should be fine. And that would be an official subcommittee We previously had used the term subcommittee loosely, meaning advisory group, but this will actually, be an actual formal subcommittee.
Thanks, Karen.
Karen, do you think it would be worthwhile to just put publicly noticed subcommittee? Or is
Sure.
that unnecessary? But just to
Yeah, I
reaffirm.
can find it is noticed right now. It's already on the city's website.
Okay, great. Any other comments on the minutes? Okay, hearing none. I wonder if there's a motion to approve the minutes with my one revision.
I'll make a motion that we accept the minutes with the slight revision made by Chair Mark Pasnick.
Okay, thank you, Aqua. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Bob. I'll go through the roll call. Please say yes if you agree with the motion. Aqua Holmes,
Yes.
Camilo,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Michael,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
and Kim.
Yes.
Great, so the motion passes. I'm a yes as well, so the motion passes. Next up on this slide, you will see the agenda we will be following today. The agendas for these meetings are always publicly posted on boston.gov. We will begin with the director's report and then move on to presentations for review. At the time of presentations, we will provide you with information about how you can participate as members of the public. We will now have Karen Goodfellow give her director's report. Karen?
Thank you, Mark. We have a few presentations for review today. Final design presentation for graffiti wall proposed by Alston Village Main Streets for the Harvard Ave Municipal Lot in Alston. A final design presentation for The Creative, a long-term installation by artists Simon Donovan and Ben Olmsted, proposed for the exterior of the Boston Arts Academy by the City of Boston. An artist collaboration between Ralph Helmick and Lamerchi Frazier, proposed for Engine 42 in Eggleston Square by the City of Boston. Before we go on to all the wonderful projects happening around the city, I'd like to first remind Boston Art Commission that we received a high volume of records requests, seemingly from one individual related to the vote to remove the Emancipation Group and form an advisory group to recontextualize the bronze figurative elements. The public art team has been working with the Director of Public Records and also cataloging the numerous requests that we have been receiving since, I think, January 2021, and responding with the requested materials. We've sent everything that we found relevant to the request. Additionally, we posted those materials on our website and have presented the requests at public meetings in an effort to continue to be responsive and transparent. We ask that the BAC send us any responsive records related to the Emancipation Group and the advisory group that was formed, previously named the Recontextualization Subcommittee, if you have not done so already. We really appreciate your patience. We've invited the requester multiple times to attend a public meeting and to speak to the commission directly, but they've declined and prefer to communicate by email. As a reminder, messages sent to or from personal devices or accounts received in your role as a commissioner are presumed public unless an exception applies. Okay. And I have a few updates on community-initiated commissions. We are continuing to pursue a resolution of some outstanding questions about the MOU for the Embrace. After some scheduling delays, we met with teams from both the artists and TBF last week and learned they did recently sign an artist agreement. Since the content of the agreement is relevant to our MOU and acceptance of the artwork, in particular the maintenance fund and intellectual property and commercial licensing, we've asked them to share a copy with us. They are reviewing that request and we were told we'd hear from them on Friday. Boston Parks and Recreation Department's renovation of the Justice Edwardo Gordin Veteran Memorial Park in Nubian Square broke ground in October. The Justice Gordin and African American Veterans Memorial bas-reliefs by Fern Cunningham and Karen Unimi have reached the midpoint of fabrication, although I think the reliefs are by Karen solely, and staff will be reviewing them, reviewing the work with the Boccaccio Sculpture Services and Karen Unimi later this month. The Frederick Douglass Sculpture Committee is hosting Reading Frederick Douglass Together at the Roxbury branch of the BPL on November 29th from 5:30 to 7:30. The artwork itself is at the midpoint of fabrication and the design and bid process for the Associated Plaza project is underway. Finally, bookmarked by Stuart Schechter, commissioned by the Friends of the Mattapan branch of the BPL, received final design approval from this commission last year, but was unable to move forward without additional funding. The Mayor's Office of Arts and Culture was able to secure capital funding to complete the project, and we are currently negotiating an MOU with both the fabricator and installer and the artist. Paintbox has finished for the 2021 season. 72 artists have completed painting their utility box. 14 artists have requested an extension, and we expect to have 86 in total completed before the end of November for this season. On the slide, you'll see some examples of the completed projects. And on the following slide, there are some more completed projects. There were a ton. I really want to shout out Trisha, who led us through this process. It's a lot of administrative and coordination on our end to get all these boxes painted and to work with each individual artist, for many of whom this is their first public art piece. And so it's really been fantastic. And also wanted to send a thank you to Nida Faria, our Director of Administration and Finance, who has been helping us to get everyone registered as vendors and send out a first payment so they could buy supplies and then a second payment once it's completed. So it's been a really incredible season for this program. And now we'll review long-term city-initiated public art projects. Last week, we celebrated the completion of Width and Web by Matthew Hintzman at the Jamaica Plain branch of the Boston Public Library in Curtis Hall, BCYF on Center Street in JP. This was the first project commissioned with Percent for Art funds. The project is already very popular, as you can see in the photo at the bottom, provided courtesy of the head librarian, Laura Pattison, who was involved from the very beginning of this project and taken on the day after the ribbon cutting. The artwork for the Roxbury branch by Joe Wardwell in collaboration with Nakia Hill and the 826 Boston YLab writers is 33% installed. The other 2 sets of panels will be installed in late November and mid-December, and we look forward to celebrating this amazing artwork once it's completed. And the top left photo is from the branch dedication with Mayor Janey. 3 transformative murals are recently completed or in the process of nearing completion. Ms. Akar's mural Together for the Engagement Center in Newmarket Square is partially complete. You can see a photo of it in the next slide, and that's the exterior mural. Cyril Conan has completed his artwork for the Pat White Apartments in Brighton. An image of that piece is in progress and is also on the next slide, and that's the Boston Housing Authority location. And Alex Cook started installing his murals at the Engagement Center this week, and those are going to be on the interior of the building. Memory Diffusion by Masari Studios is in fabrication and will be completed in the spring of 2022. The installation of the structural supports of the artwork is beginning later this month at Boston Arts Academy on the inside of the building. And Monica Bravo's piece for the East Boston Police Station, Unus Mundus, is in progress. The structural supports are installed and the glass components will be installed in early January 2022. Projects in final design include the artworks for the Do It Playground by the Play Team with Studio Luz and Marlon Forrester. We saw them last month for an advisory review, and we anticipate them coming in for final design review and vote in the next month or 2. Several other transformative projects are in design, including artwork for several Boston Housing Authority sites and the East Boston Senior Center, among others. And we hope to share those with you early in the next year. And we continue to work with Liza Quinones on those projects. Also in final design is Deep Time Stories of Jamaica Plain by Christina Pereño and Amin Taj for Hyde Square. They're continuing their community engagement and adjusting their design based on feedback from their advisory review in June. Jeremy Sobek Harrison is working on his final design and incorporating the feedback he received at the October meeting for the piece at the entrance of the Roxbury branch of the BPL. And tonight, Simon Donovan and Ben Olmsted will be presenting their final design for the creative, their sculpture for the exterior site at the Boston Arts Academy. 3 projects are in preliminary design, both artworks for Vine Street and a series of artworks by Jenny Savin for the Ruggles Corridor in Roxbury. The contract with Priscilla de Carvalho, the artist selected for the Adams Street branch of the BPL, is pending, as is the contract with Ricardo Dean 5 Gomez for the Roxbury branch exterior site up on the top of the roof there. At the moment, we have no artist selections in process, but we do have 2 open calls this time, which I will go over now. The first call is for an Indigenous public art and cultural spaces consultant or consultant team. The call was released on November 1st and closes on Friday, December 17th. We're looking for an individual or team with expertise on regional Indigenous arts, cultures, and communities, and who will work with the public art team to review and inform the City of Boston's public art commissioning process and governmental approaches to art, property, and land in Boston. We'll be holding 2 virtual info sessions, one on November 15th at 12 p.m. and one on November 17th at 5:30 p.m. You'll also see the link on the screen to access the call, and staff will add it to the chat. Thank you. And the second call we have open right now is for proposals for a mural to celebrate the life and legacy of Rita Hester. This call to artists is part of the Transformative Public Arts program and originated as a proposal by former Boston artist in residence, Gordin. In 2020, Gordin proposed a mural to honor the life and legacy of Rita Hester, a Black trans woman and beloved Alston community member who lost her life as a result of transphobia and anti-trans violence. Rita Hester was known for her congeniality, boldness, and love of entertaining. Her passing was felt by countless individuals and sparked a movement in Boston and beyond, and led to the dedication of the Trans Day of Remembrance, which is coming up on November 20th. The call was released on November 8th and is open to artists and artist teams with a strong preference for those that have a connection to trans, non-binary, and gender expansive community in Boston. The call will close on Friday, December 10th at 5 p.m. and you can access the call through the link posted in the lower right, and staff will add it to the chat. We've hired a consultant, Lala Shinks, to help facilitate artist selection, site selection, community engagement on this project, and we are working with members of Rita's family on all aspects of this call as well, on the project as well. And we're hoping for a strong response to both of these calls, so please do share them with your networks. Next, we'll go over collections projects. A Saraton by artist Mike Harries, originally installed in 1976, was recast and has been reinstalled in the West End neighborhood. The pieces were removed for construction for the compliance of crosswalks in the area. They had also been quite damaged by time and use. The artist assisted in the reinstallation in October and placed them in a crosswalk between Blackstone and Hanover Street that is more integrated with the new construction on the block. Our collections manager, Tricia Gorain, spoke to the artist yesterday, and it seems that she is pleased with the end result. The Mayor's Office of Arts and Culture will be releasing a call to artists for a photographer to complete photo documentation of the existing collection in anticipation of art site, the City of Boston's public art website, and searchable database and map. And finally, Josh Crane of Daedalus Inc., our conservation house doctor, is completing a collections audit and will be submitting a full report in December or January. And this report will inform spring and summer conservation projects. That's it.
Okay, thank you, Karen. That's quite a list of things going on. As with the last 2 months, I think there's really a lot of wonderful things in the works. And I just want to particularly thank you for putting the Indigenous Peoples Art and Spaces Consultancy RFP together. I think this is really an initiative that we've wanted to dive deeper into since our conversation back in May, I think it was. And so it's good to see that moving forward and something that'll help guide us as a commission into rethinking how we serve all of our communities in Boston. So thank you, Karen, and the whole team. We will now move on to items on the agenda for review, public testimony, and commission vote. Here's how you as members of the public can participate in today's meeting. During the meeting, please keep yourself muted. If you have technical difficulties during the meeting, you can ask questions in the chat and a member of staff will help you. After presentations and commissioners' questions, the chair and vice chair may invite public testimony. If you would like to participate, you can press the raise your hand icon and staff will put you in a digital line for comment. You can also let staff know that you have a question in the chat. If you are calling in, press *9 to raise your hand. Please remember to keep your comments on topic and brief. Our goal is to make this meeting a good experience for all so that community members feel comfortable sharing their feedback and questions. Be mindful of and respectful of other people's time when speaking so that other participants feel comfortable adding their comments. You can submit longer written testimony to bac@boston.gov. While you may disagree with other attendees' testimony, you may not interrupt them during their allotted time. Please keep questions and comments project specific. If you're called on, please state your name, title, program, and organization if relevant. We also ask that you not include pejorative, ableist, or otherwise abusive language in your comments. With that, our next project is for final design of an Alston graffiti wall. This project came to us at our June meeting and we did not vote on it, but it requires approval to move forward. Boston Transportation Department has approved use of the site. A copy of the signed site owner approval form is in your folder. Alex Cornacchini, sorry about the pronunciation, from Alston Village Main Streets is here to present. Alex? Alex, if you unmute yourself.
I don't see him in the list.
Not here.
He was supposed to be here. Jacob, do you want to say anything to speak to this, or is Alex here?
He is.
Okay, great.
I'm not sure his microphone's working.
Alex, oh, are you unmuted and it's not working? Let's see.
I think he's losing the headphones.
Oh, we still can't hear you, Alex. I see you, but
Okay.
okay, you're going to zoom in on your phone. Do we want to give Alex a minute? While we're waiting, any other comments from commissioners on Karen's report?
Looks like it was a great season. The summer season into the fall, some beautiful pieces and a forward motion toward making this the art city that we would love for it to be. And so I echo you, Mark, in congratulating the team, Karen, Patricia, Sarah, and Liza.
Thank you.
Alex,
also-
join.
Oh, go ahead. As Alex is setting up, I don't think we mentioned we had a fantastic opening for Matthew's piece.
Oh, yeah.
Like you were there, but it was so fun. The JP Hunk Band came and played for half an hour before we even started. The mayor attended, Cara emceed, and the artist book was very short, not a lot of speakers. And we had DJ Wisham and chalk
Please.
drawings and cookies and treats. So it was fantastic. And I look forward to many more community celebrations for public art.
And one of the high points I have to mention, it was Lisa Lee's poem.
Oh, yeah.
That she was a student of Matthew's, and so he commissioned her to speak at this event. She's amazing.
Hey guys, can you hear me now?
Yes, you can. Great. Alex, welcome.
Sorry about that. My computer has been kind of freaking out with the microphone, and then I thought the headphones would work, but apparently not. So apologies about that. So my name is Alex Cornacchini. I'm the executive director of Alston Village Main Streets. And as you guys said, this project was brought before you guys back in June, but was not voted on. So what we can do is I can give a little summary of the proposed project, why we're doing it. You guys can ask some questions, and then we can move forward. All right, are we ready?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so this proposed project is really about utilizing public space in Alston. So it addresses two key issues: graffiti on public and private surfaces in Alston that some see as detrimental to the vibrancy of the business district, and allocating space for public art in a neighborhood full of talented artists. So pictured here, we see the proposed wall in question. It is a municipal lot. It is owned by the city and managed by the Boston Transportation Department, who, as you guys mentioned, has given their support for this project in the form of an MOU. If you go to the next slide, you can see the Google Maps view. So it's tucked away behind Harvard Ave. It's behind a few restaurants and businesses right in the main Alston Village district. So it's visible for people that are parking in the municipal lot. For some people walking by, they can kind of give a sneak peek of it, but it's not so readily visible that it would deter from other storefronts and businesses. And we would like to grant artists all around the city access to paint this wall freely, providing them with public space to showcase their work. Our hope is that by establishing a wall in Alston for public art, graffiti artists will move from tagging storefronts to this new area and will allow for a place to work on more complex pieces of art. So as you can see, and this is exacerbated by the pandemic, but the amount of graffiti in Alston has really skyrocketed. It's always been a hub for graffiti because, you know, it's a young population, college students, fresh out of college students, a lot of talented artists, and that lends itself to graffiti. So this is one of the main issues that we're trying to address with this. And next slide. Some of the graffiti has even gotten so bad that murals, which previously have been kind of not graffitied, have started to be graffitied. This is a picture from back in February of last year, and this is one of Greg Bernstein's murals right on Harvard Terrace. And fortunately, we were able to get Greg to not only repaint this graffiti, but to put a clear coat lacquer on this and a few of his other other murals, so that it could be protected. So that anytime somebody was to graffiti over a mural, we could just, you know, scrub it off with soap and water, and it would look brand new. Next slide, please. So yeah, as I said, proposed project addresses two key issues: graffiti in Alston and allocating space for public art in a neighborhood full of artists. Next slide. And this project is based loosely on the graffiti alley in Central Square, which I'm sure everyone knows about because it's a very bold project that was put into effect probably around a decade ago. It has a lot of draw. It even has a Google Maps denotation right on it. It's a draw for tourists. It's a draw for talented artists, and we'd love to expand that to Alston as well. Next slide. Again, this is just location of Graffiti Alley that you can see right on Google Maps. So not only will it deter local artists, local graffiti artists, bring in talented artists, but will also bring in tourists as well. Next slide. I talked about this a little bit, so next slide. And I've talked to a few people who manage Graffiti Alley, and they've explained to me that it's shown that people will respect the boundaries of the established zone. It also shows that graffiti does not spread to other areas of the Central Square neighborhood. The walls of the lot in question are perfect. They're large, city-owned, not readily visible from the street, but close enough and accessible enough to Harvard Ave. This wall is a fantastic opportunity to celebrate the culture of independent art that is so ingrained in Alston, utilize a corner of the neighborhood overrun with simple tags, and refocus the core of graffiti, moving it from storefronts and public fixtures into one centralized location. We could even have a kickoff event, just as a few local artists, Sobek, Greg Bernstein, my friend Edward Bosch's did down in Roxbury a few months ago. And then we've gotten some community support from Alston Village Main Streets, the Alston Board of Trade, a few of the local businesses in the area. We've also gotten support from Councilor Liz Breeden's office and the Boston Transportation Department. And in talking with local residents, local businesses, and the Alston Civic Association, we've come up with a few risk mitigation strategies, ways to protect the local artists, whether that be physical or artistic barriers, maybe an increase in security cameras, hours of operation, so that people could only paint the walls during daylight hours, increase in lighting in the neighborhood, and we've been discussing with D14 about potentially patrolling. So none of these are confirmed, but these are all just strategies that we've discussed with local stakeholders. So what we're looking for is A, approval, but B, any questions and comments that might lend us to be able to have as successful a project as possible. So any risk mitigation strategies that you guys can think of, or any issues that you could foresee in the future, we'd love to hear them so that we can address them before we put this project into effect. So that's what I have. Thank you very much, and I look forward to your comments. Thank you.
Thanks, Alex. So let's open it up to any questions from commissioners.
So if I understand, there's no upfront artwork. This will be up to the individual artist to apply their composition to the wall. Is that what I'm understanding? And it could be several artists, and it could be changing every so often. I don't know if there's.
Yeah, correct. So the idea would be that graffiti artists would be able to tag over existing tags and throw ups and art just as long as they can put up a higher quality and better piece. That's what's happening in Cambridge in Central Square. The idea is that you don't tag over someone else's art unless you have something better that you can put up. And obviously it's a large enough wall. I believe it's 20 feet tall by 60 feet long. And originally there will be enough room for people to take liberties with their own designs.
And there haven't been issues between someone getting mad that their piece is being covered up by somebody else? Or you're saying there's enough respect among these groups of artists that they understand sort of, in some ways it's kind of a game, right? I mean,
Exactly, right. Exactly. And with graffiti artists that do more complex pieces than what we see right here on the wall, there is a level of camaraderie and of general respect amongst these artists.
Could you go back to the map? I'm just curious. I wanted to understand its relationship to the street. You said that it is visible from the street, or it's.
So there are two alleys that cars can pull in and pull out of from Harvard Ave. So they go in on the north side, which is right next to, right below Blanchard's, which is a liquor store. That's a very large visible alley that people can see the wall from.
Okay, so there is a way to see the wall from the street.
Exactly.
I just wondered, okay.
Yeah,
It's
you will be able to.
Immediate.
No, exactly. Not as quite as visible as a graffiti alley, but it is still visible from the street. Less so from the southern exit point. That's more of a narrow alley that cars are kind of constantly pulling out of. But if we were able to try to work with the property owners of both right where Sweet Kingdom is and right where Basics Carpet and Furniture is, actually Alston Village Main Street's office is in the office building that Basics is at. If we were to get them to sign on board to this graffiti zone, then we could expand it to this alleyway as well. So it kind of lead people from the street through the alley and into the municipal parking lot.
Great. So that might be phase 2 once you prove that it's effective and all that.
Exactly. We're looking couple of years down the line for that.
And the traffic has to exit in the same alley. It couldn't be made into a pedestrian alley, I take it.
Yeah, no, it would cause too much of a traffic jam because cars enter on the north side and exit on the south side.
Got it. Okay, other questions from commissioners?
Well, I think it sounds like a very exciting project. I was in Grove Hall when Sobek and friends kicked off the wall in the Grove Hall lot. So this is much needed in so many neighborhoods. So I'm happy to see so much support for this one. I have a question that I've always had about sort of the etiquette of these graffiti walls. And you mentioned that you could paint over someone's mural if it was better. Will you be thinking about coating the walls? For instance, if someone puts something up that's not better, will there be an opportunity to coat in between so that things can be taken down? Or are we just letting things happen as they happen?
I think that anything that is obscene, like any obscene words or obscene, paintings, we would want to cover immediately, because that exists in the graffiti busters 311. You can say a bit of graffiti is obscene, and they will make it a precedence to cover that. And I'd like to see that be the same. We have a maintenance person that we work with on a regular basis to do street maintenance and graffiti cover up, and we would probably keep him on retainer so that if this was to occur, if there was to be obscene gesture or word, we would just be able to have him quickly cover it up. Anything less obscene, I think anything that's not obscene, that's just less worse quality, I think that graffiti artists would be able to go in and put up their art with the understanding that it's temporary, the understanding that they're not being commissioned to do any of this. This is all for the glory and for their practice. So I think there's an understanding around that.
Might there be any kind of statement or sign to sort of say how important it is to have this space for graffiti artists, and sort of nodding to the etiquette piece?
Yeah, I think one of the first things we would try to do is A, coat the whole wall so it's kind of a blank canvas, and B, put up either signage or a small mural in each corner, saying what the rules are about the graffiti alley, what the areas of concern and areas of what's going to happen. So I think that's a great point.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to it.
Who makes the judgment if someone's work is better than the person on the wall? Is that you, Alex?
It's all
or is it a group of
subjective.
artists that sort of will make that judgment?
Yeah, it would be up to the individual artist. We'd like to see it be a big collaborative wall that has multiple different styles going on all at the same time. The last thing we want is to make it rigid and make there be so many rules that artists feel like they're not expressing themselves as clearly as they would like to.
That seems to
My
be,
worry is that it doesn't evolve to some kind of disputes between artists, which that would be a concern. But I agree with you, God, that this is a fantastic idea. I think it sounds very exciting.
Thank you.
I agree as well. More surfaces for art in the city, and especially for emerging artists, is fantastic. So thank you for all the work you've done on it. Karen, I do have a question, which is maybe an internal one, is so what are we voting on here? And we'll still open up for public comment first, but are we voting to designate this an art wall? We're not approving an artwork, for instance. So it's a little different than our normal process.
So I think we're approving the designation of it as a free wall for graffiti, and understanding that it wouldn't be coming back
Okay.
for like different versions.
Okay, great.
I have another question too, before we go to public comment. Is there any time that the lot is empty, or is it a pretty active lot even through the weekend?
It is a very it's a pretty active lot, especially at night and especially on weekends. Alston's a very young and vibrant neighborhood at night, less so in the morning. The difference between being in this municipal lot in the morning and at night is night and day. There's technically no overnight parking, although it's not very well regulated. So there are cars that park overnight, but generally from like 2 a.m. until 10, 11 a.m., there's not that many cars there.
I see Kim has a comment.
Yeah, I just wanted to reiterate, I've experienced these walls. There are many of them. There's kind of like a block of them in Chicago that still exist. There are a few that I also saw in Albuquerque, and they actually work. There are no fights or battles going on. Graffiti culture they all know what they're doing, and they all have a very clear understanding of how these walls operate. It's really part of the culture. So I just wanted to just throw in my 2 cents of where I have been and known people who paint on those walls and seen how they can last for decades. And they're pretty exciting.
Great, thanks, Kim.
Definitely. I'm in agreement with Kim and everybody on here that this is a great idea. A couple of concerns. I was wondering if maybe perhaps one of the parking spots could be dedicated to an artist working on the wall, because I know they will have to bring in gear, probably ladders, of course, paint, etc., etc. And then also, I mean, I don't know how high this wall is, but I mean, I know that artists need to step back away from it, and considering how it's a parking lot, there's a fair amount of traffic. I'm wondering how that's going to be kind of controlled as well. And then for the graffiti walls that I've encountered around the world, there are ground rules. You know, there is a plaque usually where there are ground rules, you know, as to like the program. Sometimes, you know, there are certain pieces that have a life that are on exhibit for like, say, 2 months, 3 months that are designated. So I'm wondering if that should be considered as part of this as well.
Okay, yeah, those are 3 really good comments. I think the first one, I would love to see a parking spot that's dedicated to artists. I think that would be up to the Boston Transportation Department, unfortunately, but there is one spot that it's not against this wall, but it's in the corner against the other wall that is as close to this wall as any parking spot could be. So that might be the spot in question. It has some space on the left that people could unload from. The second one, I've been talking to the Boston Transportation Department and Councilor Breeden's office about potentially setting up bollards or jersey barriers or painting like a 3 or 4 foot zone that is a pedestrian artist zone right up against the wall. I think that, yeah, thank you. That would be a great picture. I think that the permanent structures would not be allowed by the Boston Transportation Department, but something that is, you know, green paint or yellow paint that juts out 3 or 4 feet away from the wall would be considered by the city of Boston. So maybe that's, you know, that's the workaround that we use, because I agree, it's an active parking lot, and although technically people can't go both ways down right up against the wall, people do. And so having something that denotes that this is where artists are allowed and this is where cars aren't allowed is super important. And then to your third point, I agree. Putting up a set of rules on plaques or on signs, I think based on your guys' feedback is something of major importance. So thank you.
Okay, Kim, you have, you're sharing something. Okay, let's open it up to public comment. Are there any members of the public who would like to make comment at this time? I'm not hearing any. Tricia, or Sarah, you're not seeing any? Okay, so if there's no comments, we could move to discussion of a motion. And I wonder if we could make a motion that not only approves designation of this wall as an art feature, but maybe emphasizes to our sister agency in the city the importance of providing access to parking. Maybe it's not a permanent parking spot, but it's just artists get free parking when they're working. And some way of designating a safe zone for the artists as part of this, and then encouraging the organizers to provide ground rules.
Great.
So-
Well, I will say that it is, it's a free parking lot. It's a 2-hour limit.
Oh, okay. All right, great.
But there's no charge. So yeah, maybe something that's
Okay.
like artists can exceed the 2-hour limit if they're
Yeah.
working.
Or there's a parking spot that's close to their work. I guess that's what maybe would be a reason to have a designated spot. That they don't have to bring all their stuff from across the lot.
Right, exactly.
So does that seem reasonable? Camilo, do you want to make that motion since those were your 3 points?
Sure. I move to, okay, yeah, I actually don't have much experience in
Okay.
wording these, but
Approve designation of the wall, maybe?
yeah, I move to approve designation of the wall, considering some of the caveats we presented.
Great. So
I'll second that.
Aqua, thank you for seconding that. Okay, so I'll read off the list. Aqua,
Yes.
Camilo,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Michael,
Yes,
Bob,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Kim.
Yes,
Okay, and I'm a yes as well. So the motion passes. Thanks so much, Alex, for sharing this with us. And we look forward to parking there. It'll be the nicest parking lot the city has with all this exciting work added to it.
Thank you guys as well. Sorry about the microphone confusion, and thank you for hearing my presentation and giving great feedback. Appreciate it.
Okay, thank
Thank
you.
you.
And good luck with the next steps. Aqua, do you want to do the next one?
I am looking for my slideshow here. Okay, I'll read this one. The creative, I guess we're voting on the final design for the creative, which is a public artwork proposed for the exterior of Boston Arts Academy. And artists Simon Donovan and Ben Olmsted, I hope are here, or at least one of them are here to present. And we look forward to hearing what you have to say.
And
And
Sarah, I think, is going to introduce them.
okay, Sarah, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Holmes. And Simon Donovan is here to present. I'm just going to give you a little background on the project, and it suddenly got loud in here. I apologize. The Boston Arts Academy is Boston's only public high school for the visual and performing arts, and provides a diverse student body, a majority from low-income families, access to a college preparatory arts and academic education. The school's mission is to prepare a community of aspiring artists, scholars, citizens to be successful in their college or professional careers and to be engaged members of their communities. I also want to note that we have head of school and founding academic dean, Ann Clark, here with us tonight, and I want to welcome her for making time to be here with us. We also have a link for the chat. I don't know, Tricia, if you could throw that in there for me to BAA if people want to learn more about the school and its mission. The new building is in the Fenway neighborhood of Boston, and the school has been there for a long time. It's temporarily relocated right now. The Fenway neighborhood is a high traffic, dynamic intersection of culture, education, and recreation. The new building is designed by Perkins Eastman and Wilson Butler Architects, and the project is managed by our colleagues in the Public Facilities Department. In September of 2019, the Mayor's Office of Arts and Culture and this commission released a call to artists for 2 new public artworks for the new BAA facility. The review committee, which includes staff and student representatives from BAA, BAA alumni, public facilities representatives, and a member of the design team, as well as Commissioner Freeman and former Commissioner Byfield, recommended that the BAC commission Donovan and Olmsted for the exterior artwork. They were approved in March of 2020, presented their preliminary design to this commission in March of this year, and are back tonight to present their final design. So Simon, I'd like to welcome you.
Hi.
The floor is yours.
Okay. Thank you. Hi, I'm Simon Donovan, and I'm representing myself and Ben Olmsted. And we're honored to be here, and we're really excited about this project. just to tell you a little bit about us. So we're both actually from Boston originally. We live in Tucson, Arizona now, but just coincidentally we met here. So the fact that we're from Boston, grew up in Boston, lived there till I was in my mid-20s. It just means so much, and my family lives in Boston. So this is really a thrill to have this opportunity. We've been working together collaborating for about 15 years now, and we have about 27 projects around the country that we've completed. And okay, so let's get to the next slide. That's enough about us. So this is the creative, which is a portrait of a young woman that will be at the corner of Van Ness and Ipswich, right at the corner of the building, on the sidewalk by the street. It's about 8 feet tall, this bust of a head, and it's made out of 5/16 stainless steel plates that are held apart 1 inch on center, so that it has a kind of a transparency and visibility when you're looking at it from certain angles. I will say that my original kind of inspiration for this piece was the Arthur Fiedler sculpture on the Esplanade, which is made out of horizontal stacked pieces of aluminum. And I remember when it was installed in the early 80s and how intrigued I was by it. And so I see this piece as, along the Charles River, as like in the Fenway, as being in conversation with that other piece, in terms of scale and in terms of kind of the nature of it. And I see it also in conversation with the ball players across the street outside of Fenway Stadium. Okay, so next. So these are various views, and we can go through them rather quickly. So from the original, here you get the sense of transparency. You literally can like look through it, and if someone's standing behind it, you'll be able to see them. So it's kind of a magic trick in a sense. It takes on full kind of form from the side, topographic, divided into planes. I should also mention that it's not just slices, but it's also made out of perforated surface. So we're going to laser cut into stainless steel, perforated. And I'm going to hold this up. If you can see me and I showed this once before. I want you to see, so here it is from straight on. You see that it's these vertical, this is really heavy. I want you to get a sense of how heavy and how beefy this is. It is so kind of indestructible. The piece will be over 4,000 pounds. The foundation has been structurally engineered to hold that. But it's a really durable piece and that's an important consideration in respect to the location across from Fenway Park and the number of people that will be interacting with it. So again, it's made out of perforated planes that you'll be able to look inside the head. And I'll get to that in a second. You can go on, just keep. Yeah, so I will say that in our revisions and suggestions from this committee that we made her younger looking and gave her a little bit more of a smile, that kind of a Mona Lisa smile. She was just, well, you'll get a sense. Yeah, so, and we worked with the students to originally kind of come up with this visage of a young woman. It was through their input and choosing of models to look at various kind of appearances. And this was the look that we finally settled on in dialogue with them. And yeah, keep going. Oh, the other thing that I should mention about this model is that And what you're not necessarily seeing on these things is that because of the computer modeling, you're not seeing the margin and the smooth edge on the side. There'll be a 1/4 inch kind of border around each plane. So there'll be no sharp edges. Everything will be smooth. Everything will be sandblasted and protected. And so there'll be a slightly different look. I think it'll be much more shimmering when in the final actuality. Next. So, and it will have 8 lights, and we'll show you set into the base up lighting. Next. So these are all just various views of what she'll look like. And it creates a kind of, with the perforation, what you get is this kind of, when you have one layer of perforation over another, you create moire patterns so that you get these kind of optical effects. So you see on this, there's like these kind of circle-y patterns kind of occurring. And I find that kind of, that interaction, that visual kind of play, I think really compelling. And I think people will find it compelling as they're walking down the street and as it changes from various viewpoints. Next. Okay, and so this is the inside. And so you'll be able to look within. And in our original meeting, we talked about the initial concept was to come up with figures representing various disciplines in the school, be it painting or acting or music, and they were going to be these kind of blackened silhouetted figures. And what we determined in terms of doing testing and just in terms of visual clutter, and like maybe they weren't the best kind of representations of creativity. So in working with the students, going back and working with the students, we looked at symbols of creativity around the world, and different, from African symbols to European symbols and Greek symbols. And the thing that intrigued the students the most were spirals that kind of were symbols of creativity. And then we finally kind of evolved into this kind of creating this kind of galaxy within, this kind of churning of different forces like that come into play. And then we realized that it could be made out of circles, perforations, like laser cut into steel as well. So the head itself is essentially hollow, but in the middle, there'll be one plane that goes across that will hold this spiraling world within. And that is the symbol of creativity. And you'll be able to see it as you peer inside. You'll see an optical effect from the outside as well, the moire pattern. But when you look within, and the holes are rather large, you'll be able to see this kind of play of churning. And so that's the creative impulse, and thus it's called the creative. So it's a young woman that's daydreaming, imagining her creative possibilities. Next. This is another rendition. So there'll be a layering. So again, this moire pattern, you'll look inside the hole and you'll see this kind of optical art effect going on inside. Next. And next. And here again is I guess this is a better way rather than me holding it up, but you get to see what it looks like. Okay, so 1/4 margin surrounding it. And here it is in situ on the corner. There'll be some stainless steel bollards that will kind of match the stainless steel of the sculpture that will be in front and protecting it. Next. Here it is again. So interaction, just a sense of scale. Next. And here at night, illuminated. So at night, it'll be lit from below with these LEDs that are have lens, amber lens. And so it becomes golden at night. And through past sculptures that we've made that out of stainless steel and with uplighting, and we've discovered that it's just really amazing how it becomes like this golden presence. And it's just, the light will bounce around inside. And and there'll be, again, some moire patterns that are occurring. Next. Next. And this was part of the earlier rendition, but I really like the idea, like, you know, these kinds of patterns that can occur. It's almost like tattooing, you know, but it's ephemeral. It shifts as you walk by. Next. Okay, so this is the placement, and I think Sarah didn't mention, but this I think was just approved. I don't know if you want to say something, Sarah.
Sure, I'll jump in. This is going through the Public Improvement Commission review. We had our preliminary review last week. There were very few questions. We're going back next Thursday for the vote, but it feels like we're in a very good place with this. There's other aspects of this as well that need to be reviewed. So there's some other curb cuts, and I think maybe Ms. Clark might even know more than I do about some of the other questions that are coming up through PIC, but the placement of the pedestal was one of them, where we wanted to make sure we had the appropriate clearances around it for access, and that the sculpture is well protected with the bollards. So we're feeling good about that. And we didn't want to delay until December while we wait for that final approval.
And next. And yeah, so you can see it in the distance there, and you can see on the left there are the ball players. So there's this kind of dialogue between the two. And I like the idea of more kind of traditional bronzes, and yet a figurative element, but is more contemporary and representative of just new technology and creative possibilities for students at the Boston Arts Academy. Next. And I should say that, you know, I maybe I mentioned this last time, but for 9 years I taught at an arts high school just like this here in Tucson, Arizona. And so I'm just like, I feel really passionate about this population and the mission of this school. And I'm just so delighted to have this opportunity, you know, and to have had the opportunity to work with a number of them and coming to, you know, see this realized. Next. And here it is at the corner. The hotel hasn't been built yet next door, but I guess that's coming. Yeah, that one. And next. And next, so you see it's really right there at the Fenway, right behind it. And yeah, and this is just a short video that kind of has it. You can see how it kind of turns. Or as you walk around it, how things change and you get these kind of optical kind of transparency and, you know, kind of effects. This looks a little dark, but whatever. Okay. Anyway, so thank you. And I think that's it, and I can answer questions.
Thank you so much, Simon. That was a great presentation, and I want to open the floor to the commissioners who may have some questions or comments.
Yeah, I have maybe more of a comment than questions. Thank you, Simon, for your presentation. I remember in the original presentation, George and I were just fascinated by seeing sculptures that that you had done before, where the sculptures change as people walk by. And I was worried that this might not have that same effect, but within your presentation, you showed that it indeed does have that effect. And I think that's very exciting about this sculpture. I also think that it's exciting that we're using a African-American female head for obvious reasons. I don't think I have to say much more about that. I was more than happy to see that you took, I think, the advice of some commissioners who were suggesting that those interior figurines inside the head really kind of distracted from the overall sculpture. However, I think that you really solved that problem with that interior kind of universal spiral. I think it's just a brilliant solution to that. I don't, these are all comments saying that I really enjoy looking at this and will enjoy seeing it in its proper place at the opening.
Okay.
I would agree with Bob. There's some great, this has really come a long way to being a very exciting piece for the city and for the students. My questions are not about the piece, but about the other things. So the slab or the podium, can you describe that a little bit more? And then its dimensions even? I'm just a little bit concerned about it being a potential tripping hazard, or do you see it as a step that somebody could sit on? And then also the bollards, are they something that you're able to control? So it's in the...
No, I have no control over them. I have no control over the bollards. It's
Are they the material that you would like them to be, or are they going to be something different?
No, they're stainless steel, and I think that that's a nice compliment. The pedestal is, I think it's like 8 inches. It's not. It's 5 foot 5 inches by 5 foot 5 inches by what was it, 6 feet or almost 7 feet across. It's very tight, but it's important to have just a small buffer around the sculpture so that if you're blind, you're not going to walk into it. But it could be sat on, but we're going to have guards set into the top surface to keep skateboarders from kind of bouncing off of it. Though it's not really going to be very attractive for that because it's just such a close proximity to the boundaries of the sculpture. Yeah, I think in my experience, this will work fine. I have a different kind of head made out of letters that's here in Tucson. That's a large head, and there hasn't been any adverse kind of interactions, and it's at a very busy place at a streetcar stop. Yeah, it's. I think this pedestal should work out just fine.
What did you say the dimension vertically was? 7 inches or 8 inches?
I think it's 8 inches. It's been so long since I've looked at this.
Okay. And sorry, the material as well. What was the material?
So the pedestal is concrete. It's just cast concrete.
Okay.
And the lights are cast into it.
Mark, I think I have similar thoughts about the pedestal. What have you looked at another shape for the pedestal? I mean, I think the head is all the curves and the shape of the head, but when I see the model, Simon, with the very rectangular and the sharp edges, they seem to be at odds of what the beautiful sculpture of the head. And I'm wondering if you, in other pieces that you've done, or have you looked at other, blunting the corners, doing something that sort of softens the contrast between the pedestal and the beautiful sculpture?
Well, sure. We've done different shapes for taller pedestals that are kind of inverted pyramids and things like that. But my preference is the contrast of the organic form with the squared up pedestal, which is kind of a traditional pedestal kind of base. But the corners will not be sharp. They'll be chamfered. There'll be a roundness to them. So it's and this has already gone through the whole structural analysis and approval, and we've gone through many kind of hoops already with the pedestal construction, and I think we're just waiting for this approval to actually break ground. And there's a schedule assigned with the sidewalk pouring and all of this in coordination in concert with this piece. But I like the contrast of the square, and I think it's actually going to be pretty discreet when it comes down to it in terms of the concrete. Looking at those computer generated images, you're looking at a different colored base and everything, but it's really, it'll be negligible in terms of, what it looks like, yeah.
Are you going to color the concrete, or is it going to be natural concrete?
I think it's going to be natural concrete, just like the sidewalk. I mean, it could be, we could call for it to be integral colored concrete, but currently that's not the case.
Will it be formed in place, or it's not a precast piece that's?
No, it's not,
placed?
no, it's poured in place because it has the inset lighting, eight uplighting canisters that are set into place.
Are you going to treat the forms anyway? So, I mean, are you looking at the surface after the forms are removed? Are you just going to, because we know that sometimes forms will leave impressions, and I don't know how you're thinking about that, or.
I'm actually not in charge of the pouring of the construction of the base. That is being done by with the architectural firm in the building. But I've given them instructions about casting canisters and how the lightings will be flush with the surface. And it's something, these are canisters and LEDs that we've used a number of times before. That's the other thing about the shape of the pedestal. It also is critical to get the 8 lights in there and to get it from certain distances for illumination. So that's actually a factor in the shaping of the pedestal and the distance of lights and their tilt. They have adjusting arms within each lighting fixture, and so we've done some, from experience, some calculations on how it will be illuminated.
I'd just like to add that Lee Kennedy is the contractor on site, and Simon's been coordinating with them. They'll be in charge of pouring the pedestal, and it is a really challenging site. There's a lot going on in a very small amount of space in terms of other underground work and the street work and street furniture, that flag poles, trees, all of that. So I think Simon's worked really hard to fit in the lighting and all that's necessary with this pedestal to work for the sculpture in this challenging dimensionally site.
I appreciate all that, but I think with the final surface treatment of the pedestal, how it's poured, to me, I think would be an important element to keep review on, because I think they have this beautiful sculpture sit on a pedestal that maybe doesn't quite form, or there's pockets, or however what the mixture and how the concrete is poured, I think would be a shame. So that's why I'm sort of probably being a little bit more picky on that, because I see the pedestals is not, I would hate to see that begin to detract from the beautiful sculpture, and that's what my concern would be on that. So just a suggestion that working closely with the contractor, and hopefully someone will be supervising the pour of the pedestal to make sure that your image, Simon, comes out the way it should. I've seen a lot of concrete that people haven't given much concern about, and then it's, oh, well, we can't do anything about it. So.
Right. I agree with that. Yeah.
You don't want it to seem like a piece of the sidewalk that jumped up. I think if there is the chance to have a slight color difference, that it may be worth offsetting it and making it feel like something a little bit more ennobled and special, rather than the generic nature of the concrete sidewalk. So if there is opportunity, I would also, like Michael, encourage thinking about the finish and the color tone, even if the shape can't change at this point. If there are things that could, again, ennoble it so it doesn't feel as commonplace as concrete sidewalk, I think that would be worthwhile.
That's sort of this image is showing, right? The pedestal seems to be a similar tone of the piece. So you really begin to see this as a whole piece, rather than, I agree with Mark, the sidewalk sort of jumping up. So
Camilo, I know you had something that you wanted to say, but even in this illustration, the fact that the concrete is toned as the sculpture is makes it stand out from the sidewalk, so.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say, well, it seems like where the structure of the sculpture meets the concrete, there will be a plane of the same material that the sculpture is of. I'm wondering if that entire plinth slash concrete could be covered with the same material slash we're talking about a plate of metal that goes on top of the concrete, and then of course circles for the lights are cut out into it. That's just another way to kind of differentiate from the concrete.
It's pricey, but it's possible. Okay, I'll think about that. That hasn't been programmed in. I think probably integral color is maybe a simpler solution that I'll have conversation with. There's also concrete stains, though they're not as effective. But again, remember the intent is to have these stainless steel, there are these little bars that kind of happen at regular intervals along the edge to keep skateboarders from being able to, you've probably seen them on benches and things. And they are kind of an echoing of the spaces between this, like the plates of stainless steel. So there'll be that element anyway. I can see darkening the concrete. That might be a nice kind of standout. So, all right, I'll take that and we'll work with it.
All right, any other commissioners want to say anything before we open it up to public comment? I'd like to say that the subtle changes in the expression were spot on. And I could almost see this woman with a headset on listening to her favorite music. She seems like in such reverie there.
I'll put some giant ear pods.
Right.
Yeah, Kim has a hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I think I'm the only commissioner here who actually has a child attending BAA. And it's been great to see this project develop and for my daughter to actually see some of these slides as well. And I think it really, knowing some of the students who attend there, in addition to my daughter, that they will really speak to them. And I think it will be something that they will always remember as the experience part of their experience at the Boston Arts Academy. My daughter loves it. She thinks it's amazing looking. So thank you.
Cool, thanks.
Wonderful. I'm going to open up. I see Allison Polton's hands up. So Allison, would you like to take the floor?
Oh, thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. I love it. It looks so much more dynamic than what we saw months ago. And I'm going to talk about the pedestal too, because I'm worried about tripping hazards. I'm just, if there's any way to do it as an oval. I just, those sharp corners and the throngs of people that will be coming from the ballpark and the music hall and so on the sidewalks there, you just kind of wonder about that. And also I hate to see those skateboarding type things there, because that's sort of a concession to, a problem that maybe there's another way to resolve that. So I just thinking again about the pedestal and how it could be slightly different. Maybe if the process with the Public Improvement Commission has to be delayed another week or so. I don't know, but yeah, so but I really, the night view, it's amazing. And what you did with the interior spiral, I think is great. So thank you.
Thank you, Allison. Anne, I see your hand is raised before Simon, you respond again. Let's hear from Ann Clark.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Ann Clark. I'm the proud principal, head of school of Boston Arts Academy. It's such an honor to be here. I just wanted to come and express my thanks. We're really excited to work with Simon. It was a beautiful process. Thank you for making part of the making of the art, the conversation with students. We really appreciate that. And thank you for this beautiful piece that, as Kim said, will be really part of students' experience at Boston Arts Academy forever. It's a place I'm proud to say I've been at for 24 years, and we've always kept students at the center of it. And I love that this young creative student is going to be the first thing that people see when they come to our school. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Any other thoughts, or Simon, did you want to respond again to Alice?
I'm going to look into rounding the corners. I don't know about creating a full oval, but I will, that might be a little bit more difficult at this point, and also because of the lighting placement, but I can certainly see that we can round the corners and take away any, tripping hazard.
Mhm.
I also want to say that this pedestal somewhat echoes the granite blocks that are across the street holding up Yaz and the ball players, and all those other bronze figures are just on these sort of blocky pedestals. And it feels like this kind of lovely echo, but in a very different material and approach in terms of the shape of it. And Simon, sorry to just jump in there with it, but there is a dialogue between these pedestals as well.
Mhm. Yeah, I was thinking about what a wonderful counterpoint to all of those ball players across the street to see this young woman in her reverie and her creative space, just dreaming of a magnificent future, not just for herself, but for her school, for her city, for her world. I just love the contrast between what we've been seeing over at Fenway and this. Okay, any other thoughts before we try to move toward a motion? Okay. So seeing no hands up, we'd like to entertain a motion. This is the final design, and it sounds like we're all in agreement about the design of the head as being beautiful and magnificent and wonderfully crafted. And most of the commentary has been about the pedestal or the home of the piece. So I wonder if there's a way we can craft a motion for approval that takes those
Sarah,
things into consideration.
I was wondering if we could craft it with staff review, just so that this doesn't delay any of the process moving forward, because I know that there is a timeline, correct? Is that true, Sarah? Okay. So I could try to form a motion, Ekwa, if you wouldn't mind.
I would love it.
I move that we approve this piece, offer final approval to this piece with pending discussions between staff and the artist about the final form and character of the podium on which the piece sits.
And I would certainly second that.
Awesome.
Mark, would you accept an amendment? Coloration would be added to the items that they're talking about?
Yeah, I think I meant that with character, but we could say character, coloration, and form.
Because I would say character would be the finish, how
Okay.
it's smooth, or what.
Okay, let's call it form, finish, and color of the final podium.
Okay. Do we have that down? I think Patricia, you're the one that takes this. We have everything. Okay. We have a second, so I'm going to read off the commissioners, and if you're in agreement, please say yes. Mark?
Yes.
Camilo?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
Cara?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Robert?
Yes.
Kim?
Yes.
And I'm a yes also. So the motion passes. Simon, congratulations.
Thank you.
We're looking forward to seeing this piece grace our city.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, I ride my bike by there a lot. I can't wait for it to be out front. When will it be done?
Well, been waiting for the placement review. Late spring is what we're aiming for, but we'll see. We'll see. We have to coordinate with ball games.
Yeah.
Sure.
Well, we look forward to enjoying it in the future. All right, thank you very much. Our next presentation is a review and vote on the artist collaboration for public art for Engine 42 in Eggleston Square. Sarah will present. Sarah?
Thank you, Commissioner. And I'll be a little bit slow on this. Driving the presentation and talking is not my forte. Doing both at once. You see before you a rendering of Engine 42 Rescue 2 District 9 Fire Station. This is designed by Dora and Whittier Architects. It is in Eggleston Square, and it's the first new fire station in the city of Boston in 30 years. The project was managed by our colleagues in the Public Facilities Department, and construction on it was completed this summer. This station is now open. When the fire station was still in its design phase in 2018, this commission and the Mayor's Office of Arts and Culture released a call to artists for new long-term artwork for the station through the funded with Percent for Art monies. An artist review working group, including former Commissioner George Fifield, community members, fire department representatives, and design team members, convened in 2019. And in April of 2019, they recommended the artist Ralph Helmick for the project. Ralph Helmick is a sculptor and public artist who's completed over 40 major civic commissions across the US. Among his many awards is the National Endowment for the Arts New England Foundation for the Arts Fellowship and numerous design honors for his public artwork. His commissions have been included in Public Art Network's annual Year in Review 8 times. Helmick is interested in how referential forms and images can be broken down and subsequently reformed anew. The approach is often paralleled by a fascination with how small three-dimensional components can collectively create larger sculptures, forging a microcosmic macrocosmic dynamic. And interestingly, the artwork that Simon referenced, the Fiedler head, is also by Ralph Helmick. So that's kind of a funny reference for you. Some of Helmick's past works are shown on this slide. You can see the Fiedler there. This commission approved Mr. Helmick for the commission, and after some contracting delays, he began work on his preliminary design. In May of 2020, he presented his preliminary design to this commission for review and vote. While he received approval, this commission also strongly recommended that he strengthen community input in the design and give greater consideration to the character of both Eggleston Square and the fire department. Following that meeting, Ralph reached out to other artists and numerous stakeholders and community groups. Through that process, he met another local artist, Lamerty Frazier. Lamerty Frazier is an educator and historian, fiber and metal artist, holographer, and poet. She's also been the Director of Education and Interpretation for the Museum of African American History in Boston and Nantucket for 15 years, highlighting the museum's collection and exhibits, providing place-based education and interdisciplinary history programs, projects, and lectures, most recently promoting STEM and STEAM education pedagogy. Apologies if I mispronounce that. I always struggle with it. She is adjunct faculty in African American art history for Pine Manor College in Chestnut Hill and Bunker Hill Community College in Charlestown. She served the artistic community for over 20 years as an award-winning national and international visual and performance artist and poet, with residencies in Africa, Brazil, Taiwan, France, and Cuba. As a lecturer and workshop presenter, her audiences include youth and adults. Lamerty is a member of Women of Color Quilters Network, and she's a resident artist at Northeastern University's African American Master Artist in Residency Program, also at South End Technology Center, and MIT Fab Lab in Boston. She's an incredibly accomplished artist, just amazingly accomplished artist. Her fiber works serve to document history and memory and often include innovative technology. And these artworks are featured in a series entitled The Quilted Chronicles. Selected works are included in several art publications and in permanent collections of the Museum of Art and Design, the Smithsonian Institute, and the White House. Lamerty is also an alumna of the City of Boston AIR program. Ralph and Lamerci have been meeting regularly over the past several months to discuss the project and potential designs. And they would like to move forward as an unincorporated team on the Engine 442 project. They are working on a formal agreement similar to the agreement held by Studio Luz, which was developed by Studio Luz and Marlon Forrester for the DeWitt Playground, which is another unincorporated team. Lamerci would be the lead artist and Ralph would be artist and technical advisor. But we need approval from this commission to move forward with that agreement for this project.
Great, thank you, Sarah. And I'm presuming that you are recommending this as a member of the staff who's been working in this
Yes,
process.
we
Okay,
strongly recommend this. We're
great.
pretty
And there's
excited
no
about
legal
it.
issues with vendors and that sort of stuff that we have to worry about, that you've managed all that for us. Okay,
Not
great.
that we're aware of at this point.
All
Yeah.
right. Thank you. Nice to see an Air alumnus achieving something, some great work out there. Okay, let's open it up and see if there's any questions from commissioners.
I did have a question. I do remember when this came before the commission previously, we did see, I think, some kind of sketches or kind of initial renderings for artwork. Is that being reconsidered now that this team is kind of working together, or kind of using that initial idea as a jumping off point? Do you have thoughts on that?
No, they'd be developing a new preliminary design in this process. It would be a collaborative work, again, with Lamerci as lead artist and Ralph as artist and technical advisor. And we're pretty excited to see what Lamerci would come up with in this sort of new paradigm, maybe a little bit of a different way of working than she's worked before.
Great, thank you.
It strikes me that it's a great example of giving a new platform to an artist who hasn't done this kind of work, but supporting them in the process as well. So this partnership seems pretty exciting to me. Other comments or questions from commissioners? No, hearing none. Are there comments from the public? Okay, hearing none, then could I have a motion on the floor?
I'd like to make a motion that we accept this new unincorporated pairing of artists to develop Engine 42's public art piece.
Great, very clean motion there. Thank you, Ekwa.
Better.
Will someone second that?
I'll second that.
All right, thank you, John. And I'll read off the list and please say yes if you agree with the motion. Ekwa,
Yes.
Camilo,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Michael,
Yes,
Bob,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Kim,
Yes.
and Para.
Yes.
Great, and I am a yes as well, so the motion passes unanimously. Thank you so much.
Thank you all
Sarah,
so much.
great.
We're
This is
very
exciting to-
excited.
Yeah, we look forward to seeing this one develop. I do remember the conversation too, Brian, and I think this is a really great direction.
Also, if you get a chance, any of you commissioners or any members of the public as well, to drive by the new station and see what it looks like, so that you'll have a sense of the building when presentations are made. I think I would highly recommend that.
Great. That sounds good. So we have one step left in our meeting tonight, which is motion to adjourn. Do I hear such a motion?
So moved.
Great.
Seconded.
Thank you, Bob, and thank you, Ekwa. And before everybody says yes to this, it's a beautiful evening, so I hope you all get outside for a few minutes and enjoy the unseasonably warm evening. So I'll read off the list here. Ekwa,
Yes.
Hello,
Yes. Thank you, everyone.
John,
Yes.
Michael,
yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Kim,
Yes.
and Kara.
Yes.
And I'm a yes as well. So we are officially adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Enjoy the evening.
Thank you, Mark. Equa.
Great meeting.